Oi, pessoal, bom dia. Meu nome é Luciana, eu trabalho aqui na 21202. O Alec é o nosso convidado hoje para o primeiro hangout da 21202 Academy. Ele vai falar hoje com a gente um pouco sobre mobile marketing e mobile web marketing. Então, espero que vocês gostem. Se tiver alguma dúvida, é só perguntar pelo chat e ele responde no final. Por enquanto, vou manter todo mundo mudo, tá? Senão vai ficar com muito barulho. Aqui a gente não vai conseguir atender todas as perguntas ao mesmo tempo. Vamos lá?
Bom dia, eu não falo muito bem português, assim que eu vou falar inglês. So, do you want to change or do you want me to? I can change. Okay, so the agenda for today is we'll cover the workshop overview, tell you a bit about myself, then we'll go into the mobile app market. We'll follow that with mobile app marketing, and I'll tell you a bit about our company, and then we'll move into a Q&A section, okay? So, about the overview. Today we'll cover the mobile app market, so we'll see some insights about market trends, and we'll see some opportunities and problems about them. And then we'll go into mobile app marketing, but first, before speaking about mobile app marketing, we'll speak about the importance of mobile app quality prior to doing some mobile app marketing. So a bit about myself. I'm co-founder of Amrats. I'm an electronics engineer. I have over 7 years of experience building products in the technology space. Over 4 years of experience building social and mobile applications that have been used by millions of users worldwide. I've worked at companies like GameLoft in New Zealand as well. If you can take just 1 minute, we have this form. So if you can fill that out so we can have an idea of who's attending the workshop, that would be great. After the presentation ends, I will share with you the presentation. And we can, you can send me emails with further questions. If I can help you out further, we'll do that. So if you can write that down and actually send it into the Hangout. If it didn't make a mistake there, it should be okay. So let's start with the mobile app market. The mobile market, sorry. So let me read this for you. This is a quote from Nielsen from July. So it reads, consumers are spending more time on their apps than ever before. Over the past half-decade, the proliferation of mobile devices has transformed us in an app-driven society, presenting marketers with new opportunities to connect with consumers by creating more interesting and sophisticated apps to command their attention. This is intuitive to you, but we'll see some stats that support this. Let's start by this graph that I think is very interesting. It shows how many people actually use their phone 15 minutes within waking up. And if you see across the US, UK, France, Germany, and Singapore, over 60% of the people that wake up, within 15 minutes of waking up, they check their phones. And I think that if you look at your behavior on a day-by-day basis, I actually do this, very often. And I also do it before going to sleep, and I do it when I wake up suddenly and have a drink or whatever. So this is really important, and this gives you an idea of how important and intimate the phone really is. Phones, tablets, and mobile technology. There's also an important trend going on in terms of purchases via smartphones. So you can see that in the Asia-Pacific region, over 75% of people that have purchased products that use smartphones have purchased through smartphones. Okay, so this is really important to drive sales of your products and services as well. This graph shows you how much people time spend on their phones and the breakup between how much they spend on mobile web versus applications. And this kicks in a very important point. You need to have a mobile application presence. And I'm speaking about native mobile applications. And this graph here shows that approximately 60%, and actually it's even more than this. I think right now it's around 84% of the people that spend their time on their phones spend it on mobile applications. You want to speak to these people and you want to reach them, when they wake up, you need to have a mobile app. And it's really important to do that. So how do you get this done? Well, in order for you to have a mobile app, you have to have a mobile app in some app store. And you've got the Apple App Store, the Google Play Store, the Amazon Store, the Windows Phone Store, and there's more, but these are the key ones. So this graph shows you the share, the global market share by platform. So Android dominates it. Apple iOS is also very important. BlackBerry is fading out. And although you don't see it here, I believe that Amazon is going to have a very strong presence, mostly now with the new release of the 5. If you haven't seen the phone, I recommend you do. It's really nice. This graph here shows how many phones are actually shipped. So you can see how many phones have been shipped in millions of units in 2014 and the projection for 2018. And the compound average growth rate for Android is 12%, iOS is 10%, and Windows Phone is 28%. So this graph shows that Windows Phone is projected to take a bit of market share from Apple. Okay. Again, Amazon is not here, but I believe it's going to take some market share as well. Here you can see the trends in terms of market share per geography, and the East is really important, Asia, Pacific, and China as well, and you can see the growth here. So let's say that you want to have a mobile app presence. It's not only having a presence in an app store, it's also important to understand that there's many devices in each of these. You already know this, but let's go through each device. So for Apple, you've got to take care of an iPhone 3G, 4, 4S, 5, 5C, 5S. Now you've got 6 and 6 Plus. Then you've got tablets. You've got competing products from Google as well, and Amazon, here's the Fire Phone and Windows. And now you've got the wearables category as well. So when you think about building an application, you need to think about distribution, and you have to think about form factors, and you have to think about how you leverage those form factors to have more engagement, retention, and conversion rates. Well, this is obvious, but here you've got some iPhones. I put this here to emphasize the importance of different sizes and form factors. Same thing with Apple tablets. So let's say you want to build an app, but how do you get that app noticed by your users? Well, there's 2.5 million applications in the app stores, in the App Store and Google Play stores alone. And that's growing at a rate of 34,000 new applications each month. So each month you don't launch your app, or you don't launch an update, there's 34,000 new applications there to compete with that. You have to take that into consideration. Even more so, if you get a person to download your application competes in their phone with other applications. So according to Harvard Business Review, and this is outdated, there's an average of 40 apps per phone, and people use 15 of those regularly. And I insist that this is outdated. I don't think I'm very representative of this, but I've got approximately 200 apps in my phone, and I use 40 maybe. So that will vary, but you get the picture, right? Here you've got the breakup of that. This graph is also from March 2013. I couldn't manage to get an updated graph of this, but you can see that there's an average of maybe 30 to 40 apps. Okay. According to Nielsen here, in 2014, you can also see the breakup by age groups. Okay? So on average, 27 applications per month are used by people. And on average, 30 hours per month are spent by these people on applications. So if you take, for example, a 10-hour day in 1 month, that's 10% of their time. I think, of course, that's more, at least in my case. But get the picture. 10% of people's time is spent looking at them. So it could be spent looking at your app, or looking at a brand, or product or service, something. 10%. You also need to understand that once somebody downloads your application, they might not care about it. 20% of the apps downloaded are used only once. Okay? Only once. You don't want to be one of those. You want to be one of those that are used more than 10 times. Okay? That's retention. And let me add to this that in order for you to be able to get this done, you need to have a great app. Okay? You need to have an engaging app. You have to have relevant content, something that people will actually care about. Otherwise, they won't use it. So let's say you want to start marketing your app, and you want to start learning about the technologies that will let you do it. Think about Facebook, Twitter, word of mouth, and so on. Different types of technologies. Well, those are the different types of technologies available to you. There's many, and it's a very complex space, and it's very difficult, or actually, at least it's a bit time-consuming for you to actually learn how all these work, to learn which ones work better for your application, for your industry, for your app category, and so on. So this requires, an investment in time and money. You need to consider it. So let's start speaking about how do you get your application to someone's phone for them to actually use it. So this is an important point. You need to distribute it to an app store, okay? But once you get it there, as we've seen, it's quite difficult for them to actually care about it and use it, and they might not use it. So how do you get the right user for your application? Or how do you get the right application to a user? To answer that question, I like to separate mobile app marketing in two parts. So before you start marketing your application, you have to get to a certain point where you have some standard of quality for your application. I'm not talking about an extremely complex and elaborate application. I'm talking about an MVP that follows reasonable quality standards. Okay? After you've achieved that, you can start spending your budget to actually get that application to your users. Right? Otherwise, they won't care. Or if they do care and download it, then they might get frustrated. And that's not a very good scenario for you. So we'll start by discussing how to achieve mobile app quality, generally speaking. And then we'll jump into mobile app marketing. So why do you have to care about app quality? Well, because that provides you with lower barriers to entry. It gives you higher featuring chances, that's higher placements in the app stores for free. And that translates into higher retention and engagement rates, lower acquisition costs, and more. So how do you do this? Well, you need to exceed your target audience needs and expectations. Okay? And how do you do this? By providing the right features, the right content, the right design. One way of doing this is by following the App Store's best practices. So for example, in the Apple App Store, when you develop an application, you need to consider including features like push notifications or the game center if you're developing a game. Okay? Why do you need to care about social? Well, because you need to increase the viral factor. You need to include you need to increase how viral the application is, how it will spread, okay, organically, so to speak, with lower costs. You need to increase the organic growth and recurrent users. You need to reduce your acquisition costs, okay, and to get more loyalty. Because if you're not sort of, so to speak, buying users, then it means that these users are more likely to be more engaged with your content. Okay. So how do you do this? Well, you need to include social features. You need to share relevant content. You need to access the app easily. For example, through the Facebook anonymous login. I don't know if you follow the Facebook updates, but that's quite a neat feature. We'll discuss it later. So you need to follow social networks best practices from all the top social networks: Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Tumblr. Yeah. So, for example, the anonymous login, the share button, the like button, and make that. The important point here is to make that intrinsic to your app design. You can't think about it later. You need to think about it while you're actually designing the core features in your application. Otherwise, you will not be a part of it, an intrinsic part of it. You will not feel natural. You feel like pushed. You need to make sure that it's part of the experience. People actually have to have fun, using. Why not? They actually want to. They should actually look forward to actually using it. So, content is important, really important. It's it helps you increase the sessions per day, per week, per month. Keeps your audience engaged. It sustains your user attention and loyalty. You need it to increase your social sharing viral effect, and you need it to increase again and again retention and engagement. So how do you achieve this? Well, first you need to understand your audience, and you need to provide them with content that's relevant. Okay? So, for example, you need to provide them with local content. Yes, global content that they're interested in. Things that are tailored to their interests. And a very important part of this is keeping the content updated, but at the proper frequency. So you need to have a high frequency so that your audience does not get bored, but it needs to be low enough so that they do not perceive it as spam and get fatigued by it. The next point is tracking. You need to understand what content your audience engages with. You need to understand which are your best buyers, who are your whales, who are your non-paying users. You need to provide better, more relevant content. It allows you to remove unnecessary content and features. It allows you to understand what's going on within the application. And how do you do this? First and foremost, you need to understand your application and your core KPIs. So, what makes your app work? You need to understand that. What are your core sections within the application? You need to validate whether you're having the right traction on the sections that you expected, and validate whether that's working or not. So you need to place in-app trackers to quantify those KPIs. You need to understand time per session. How many people view each section per day? How many sections are clicked? How many sections are shared? Okay. How many non-payers do you have? How many paying users do you have? How many of those are whales? After you've done that, you need to actually create reports and follow that up with actionable items. So let's talk about traffic sources. You need to understand where users come from. Okay? So you need to understand if your users come from organic traffic sources or paid traffic sources. You need to be able to shift your budget from low-performing traffic sources to high-performing ones to optimize your budget properly, to have higher returns on your investment, to reduce your overall acquisition costs. This will translate, again, into engagement, retention, and lifetime value. So you need to track all the acquisition funnel. That means where do you come from? When do they download your application? What do they do once they have downloaded your application? Do they stay? Are they recurrent users? Do they come the next day? Do they come 1 week after? Do they come 1 month after? Are they engaging with your content? And that kind of thing. Once you've got all that information, you've got your tracking events inside your application, and you have tracked where those users have come from, you can actually understand which traffic sources are providing you with the best possible users for your application. And that's pretty. Testing. So why do you need to test things? Because you need to test your assumptions. Sometimes it's very difficult to believe that you're not right, but in order for you to understand whether you are correct or not, you need to actually test things objectively, measure them, and then make sure that your assumptions are correct. And if they're not, you need to change something in your application. Okay? So you need to test your performance. You need to be able to iterate your product features and content quickly. Because you want to have lower costs and lower risks. And basically you want to make your app grow. If you do not do this, you cannot know what's going on. So how do you do this? You have to detect representative target markets. You need to soft launch on representative target audiences when you do an acquisition. Strategy. You need to allocate testing budgets. You need to test the lifetime value and contrast that with expected results. And then you need to iterate that before scaling. Okay? So I suggest you test before you actually scale your application. Okay? You need to go global if you can. If your application is in its nature global, then you can leverage that through applications. The distribution process is instant, so you have no restriction in that regard. And you can also validate your target markets. Maybe your application is not working on one market, but it does work on another. So, for example, this is not very easy for some applications. So if you have an insurance company, for example, it might require more local partnerships for you to be able to launch and expand locally, and might be difficult to expand to other countries. But if you have a gaming application, then that might mean that you only need to localize. So if you can localize your application, then that might be a bit easier for you to scale globally. So in order for you to be able to do that, you need to prepare the local content for the target market. You need to test and track for market performance, and you need to allocate testing marketing budget as well. It's really important that you think locally as well, not just globally. Because a local experience is really important for your audience. Okay? It shows that you care. It reduces your acquisition costs and will translate into high engagement and retention. How do you do this? Well, you have to prepare the local content for the target market. You need to use local languages, context, idioms, and seasonalities. For example, the Super Bowl in the US. If you can manage to have local partnerships with local celebrities as well and brands, that's also. Finally, A/B testing is really important. You never know if there's a better option to what you think is best. In order for you to actually validate that, you need to test. You need to test doing simple changes on simple things in reduced sections. So you need to track everything, you need to report frequently, and you need to iterate your product based on your results. An A/B testing architecture could help. I could discuss that after the presentation. So you need to prepare different sets of features for segmented audiences, and you need to also get statistically representative segments for you to be able to get good quantity of data. And you also need to make sure that you're only changing one variable at a time. So for example, you're testing a budget for purchasing or a discount, something like that. Just to change one thing. So for example, if it's a button, you just change the color, nothing else. Then you can change the text, for example, the discount price. Instead of 30%, it's 40% or 50%. And then against those, you can actually see which one performs better. So let's say that you've covered all these things, and you have a quality application. So then it's important that you start thinking about mobile ad marketing. If you do not do all of these things prior to doing mobile ad marketing, then you will not know what's going on, and you might not get the best results. You may actually get higher costs for acquisition. And those may not yield the best possible users because users will not engage properly with the content because it's not tailored to them. So you never know what's going on. You might think that the traffic source is not good, but actually your app may not be that good. So you need to really understand if your application is good. If your application is good, and you start doing mobile app marketing, then you will want to get installs for your application. You will want to get new users for your application. And you'll need to think about the traffic sources. So you can think about organic traffic sources and paid traffic sources. Organic traffic sources are things like word of mouth, social media, and the App Store features appearing in the App Store by Apple or Google. That's really important, actually. So keep that in mind. And then paid traffic sources. So which ones do you use? There's incentivized traffic sources, non-incentivized traffic sources, RTB exchanges, that's real-time bidding, social traffic sources, publisher directs, and more. There's business models. So you've got cost per million impressions, cost per clicks, cost per installs. Which one's best for you? Which one do you use? Then you have to consider the ad units. Which one will I use? Will I use a banner? Will I use an interstitial? Will I use a video? Will I use an instant displaying video? Will I use native advertising? Well, how much do they cost? How many do I make? Who do I work with? Those things are what are important. You need to think about. Once you've done this, you need to think about how do you bring users back to your application. Remember that 20% of the applications that were downloaded were used only once. And then some of them were used only twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Well, at some point, some of your users will leave your application, and you need to bring them back. How do you do that? How do you keep them interested? How do you reach them again? How do you bring them back? And specifically, how do you bring them back into a specific section within your application? That they do not have to stress with all the flow of having to open the application again and starting from scratch. How do you take them to that section that's important to them at that specific point in time? This will vary depending on the type of application that you have. So an e-commerce site will be different from a gaming application. Okay? So how do you do this? Well, you can use a business model such as cost per action. So you bring a user to a specific section within the application and you have them do a specific action. And that action could be tailored to improving retention or engagement or lifetime value. So it could, in terms of retention, it could be bringing a person back to the application and that's it. In terms of engagement, it could be take the user back to the application within the section where we're selling cars and have him purchase the car that's on 50% discount. And in terms of lifetime value, well, that's also a good example of that. Okay. So in order to take users to a specific section with the application, you need to think about deep linking. This will allow you to actually do that. And for you to be able to use that, you need to prepare your application so that it's enabled. Okay, so that's about it in terms of the content for the workshop, but we will do some Q&A in a minute. Our company, Amberad, is a mobile app marketing platform that helps mobile app developers and marketers reach and acquire the best users for their applications. So we help with 3 problems. We give 3 solutions to these problems. So installs, retargeting, and ROI and lifetime value optimization. So in terms of installs, we help bring users to the application through a cost per install business model. So you do not need to worry about customer impressions or clicks, but just the install. In terms of retargeting, we help bring users to specific sections within the application to do a specific action. And in terms of lifetime value and return on investment, we do some consulting so that the apps follow certain quality standards before we do some mobile acquisition. If we don't believe that the app follows these standards, then we do not work with these standards. It's really important to us that we partner for the long term, and it's important that we consider that the applications are good. Otherwise, you will be spending your money and not getting the results you expect. Okay, so that's it. If you'd like, we can do a Q&A. I've put this form up so you can put all your questions there. I will answer each of those questions, and of course, we can discuss further by email. Let me just put this here. Yeah. Would you like to start with the questions here?
I'm asking do you have the phone YouTube and here?
Are you guys building an application today? Do you have a mobile app?
We don't have not right now, but we're trying to build it for the next 6 months.
Okay.
Our application is a SaaS tool that helps tour operators to manage their business. So we're intending to do something like that in the sense of the operator could easily manage their activities through the days. So it's B2B platform. I don't see how you could use those principles of positions and stuff in our market to attract people to get to use it, the action.
Well, in terms of B2B, it's a bit more difficult.
Yeah.
It's a bit more tailored to B2C, but you can still leverage all the app quality. Maybe you could have a separate application that's more catered to commercial purposes, like driving leads to your company. And, for example, that application could have content that's relevant to your target audience, the main company. And then through through mobile advertising, which would probably yield lower acquisition costs for you, you could reach those potential customers. Once you do, you could keep them updated with the latest trends in your industry, and then maybe you could find a bigger audience to keep them engaged with what's going on. And through that, you could also leverage getting more clients. I don't know what industry you're in, but maybe we could discuss something there. It's important that you think about this as another channel for your business, and for you, it will be important as a business to get new customers, right? So if you manage to do that some way, then you should leverage that channel. The question is, how do you leverage the channel? I do agree that in the context of B2B, it might be a bit more difficult, but if you think about B2C, then maybe.
We have a blog, and we monetize this blog with affiliate programs.
Yeah.
And we have encountered a problem. Users use the mobile for access our blog, but when he's buying the product, he's buying a PC or personal computer. In our case, a platform called affiliation program don't extend the cookie of these users, and our boss, many sales about that.
Do you have você tem uma versão dele mobile, do blog mobile?
Ele acessa pelo usuário que acessa pelo browser do mobile. Só que na hora que a pessoa clica no link, recebe o cookie, né, da compra, quando ele sai, ele faz a compra no computador. Às vezes a gente perde isso. A gente acaba, às vezes, perdendo mais venda no mobile que...
Você tem mais acesso no mobile do que no...
Não, temos mais acesso no terceiro. Está crescendo cada dia mais o acesso no mobile, só que o cara não está muito acostumado a comprar mobile, ele vai para comprar no PC.
They have this one with the part of the people, the elders, that look by the mobile, but they don't have the process to buy. It's not so easy for the guy to buy on the mobile. They look at the products on the blog in the mobile phone, but they go to the PC
To actually buy. Mm-hmm.
In this case, what is your advice to like? They should change it to the mobile, build something in the mobile to test, or how they know like the mobile will be the channel to them to sell the product.
Well, I think you should build something that will allow you to track the complete purchase funnel across devices. So you should not be losing where the user is at any point. If he starts searching for a product in mobile, find that more and more people will do that, but finishes the transaction, so to speak, on desktop, you should be able to recognize the same user in both places. Okay? So you need to be able to identify that user across platforms, across devices. So we could discuss that in more detail. That's a separate topic that's big, but I think it's a very valid point.
Yeah.
And yeah,
our problem is this product of ourselves is a third people problem. Okay? In this case, we depend on a cookie. The user.
yeah. Yes. We can discuss it later. Yeah, but I understand. Go on.
I sent to them the test, the QA. You see, I think we can finish now, and I'll send
Yeah.
the QA.
Sure. Okay. Thank you everybody for coming to the workshop. I hope you found it useful. So here's my contact information. We usually put some trends and graphs in our Twitter page. And if you have any information or questions that are specific to your application, or if you do not have an application but are thinking about building one, then we could discuss that with you and see if we can help you out with that. So send us an email, keep in contact, and thank you.
Pessoal, nós vamos finalizar aqui. Se alguém tiver alguma dúvida, no bate-papo tem um link aqui para as perguntas para o Alec. Obrigada a todos.